Greetings, everybody. Welcome to TV Skywriter. I'm your host, Patricia A. Murray. And today we're going to talk about Alzheimer's. We have a very special guest here. His name is Henry Edmonds. He's from the Bryan Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. That's part of Duke University here in Durham, North Carolina. Welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here, Patricia.
Absolutely. You've been on Radio Skywriter.
Yes, and first time on TV.
There you go. Also wrote about the subject that we're going to talk about in this month's Durham Skywriter, this Durham's online community paper at durhamskywriter.com. So tell us. Absolutely, no problem at all. I have a soft spot in my heart for people who are suffering from Alzheimer's because that's actually why I moved here to Durham to take care of my aunt who had Alzheimer's. So I took care of her for about 6 years before she died. Yeah. So tell us what happens at the Bryan Alzheimer's Disease Research Center.
Okay. First of all, we have a clinic where we see patients who are suffering with memory problems. That's the biggest thing that we do is deal with patients who are suffering from memory issues. We also have a brain bank where we collect brain tissue from persons who have died with Alzheimer's disease.
Mm-hmm.
In that brain bank, we have tissues from, of course, affected persons and unaffected persons who have died and want to contribute their brains to our research. It's very important that we collect brain tissue from persons who are suffering with Alzheimer's disease. That's how the biggest portion of our research is funded, as well as the research that we do is necessary to have brain specimens. And those brain specimens go not only to Duke, but all across the country, and even in other countries, we contribute brain tissue to research. Unfortunately, however, the number of African Americans that contribute to our brain donation program is very scarce.
Why is that?
Well, one thing, African Americans have, I guess, something in their DNA that inhibits them from doing autopsy, and it is necessary to do an autopsy in order to get the brain tissue. The other thing is that African Americans do not contribute any organs to research, or for any reason. The numbers of African Americans that do contribute organ donation is very small in any case.
Do you think it's because they haven't been approached, or religious reasons, or distrust of the medical profession?
I think there's a number of different reasons. I'm a pastor also, so actually retired pastor. Mm-hmm. And we say in church that, we have another body. It's coming down from heaven, not made with human hand. But we don't act like it. It's a thing like we have to go to heaven with all of our organs intact, all of our body parts intact, or we won't make it. It's just a stigma about any kind of donation of organs.
I'm sure that could probably change if there was more outreach, I would think. If people would know that it's very important for research to help others. I think people would go along with that if they were approached. Sometimes it's hard to make that first move. Sometimes you have to be invited to do something, which is what you do as the African American outreach for the Bryan Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. So that is what you're doing, right? Yeah.
I've gone to many churches and other organizations in the Black community and talked about brain donation. And the thing that they say is not me. No, I don't want to do it. Um,
Hmm.
I got into this work because my wife's father had Alzheimer's disease. And when I talked to my wife about brain donation, she initially said no, she would not do it. However, after talking to her and she knowing more about the research that we're doing and the necessity of having brain donation, she finally consented to uh, let our father's brain be donated to do.
Hmm.
Now, I think one of the reasons maybe is that people feel that the person will be disfigured if they donate their brain,
Sure.
and they don't want to see in the casket like a person with half a skull or like
Sure.
head,
Sure. I can
uh,
understand that. Yeah.
face to face. But that's not really the case because what actually happens is they go in from the rear, collect the brain, and then sew it up, and you never know that the person's brain was donated.
Okay.
And when I talk to people about it, they say, "Well, I didn't know that," but there's still a lot of uh, you know uh, ambiguity about donating brain.
Sure. It takes a lot of thought. I mean, if I had known about this, I probably would have consented for my aunt's brain to be donated, but I didn't know about this.
Hmm.
I probably would have consented to it, but I guess you just have to hear about things and think about it. You know what I mean? I think it's something that the average person might not even think about until.
Well, one of the other things too is that we have to have them already in our uh, treatment program
Mm-hmm.
so that we can really characterize what's going on before death.
Okay.
So the persons have to be already at Duke, coming to Duke for treatment,
Sure. Sure.
or in one of our other research studies.
Okay. How do you sign up for a research study with Duke University?
Well, you can call me, and my direct line at Duke is 919-668-2676.
Okay.
And uh, we have right now that I'm particularly interested in talking about a program of first of our, one of our programs that deals specifically with African Americans
Mm-hmm.
who have memory issues such as Alzheimer's disease or dementia.
Okay.
The criteria for this study is that the person has to be diagnosed, have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease or
Mm-hmm.
dementia,
Okay.
and they have to be at least 60 years of age or older.
Okay.
Um, and they have to have a study partner, a person uh, who knows them, a caregiver, a
Mm-hmm.
family member, into the study with them. There is a little bit of money that's given. Actually, it's a gift card that's given to the study partner as well as to the participant
Okay.
for participation in the study. The
Okay.
study is not a long study. It's a one-time uh, uh, visit to our research center, or we could actually come to the person's house and
Okay.
talk to the person at their home. Um, it's one time. You take some blood. We ask some questions. It takes about 35, 40 minutes
Mm-hmm.
to complete the study. And
Okay.
that's all that's to it.
That doesn't sound so bad. I'm guessing that for you to go to someone's house, that this is in the Durham area. I mean, you don't go as far. How far away do you go?
Well, actually, for this study, we try to keep it within the triangle area. Okay,
Okay.
Durham, Chapel Hill, Raleigh, um, Wake Forest, um,
Hillsborough.
Hillsborough, all that
Yeah.
triangle area.
Mm-hmm.
But we will go to other places if we get a number of persons. Like say, if there's a church that had 4 or 5 people even,
Mm-hmm.
in Greensboro. We could go to Greensboro or wherever.
Okay. Okay.
But
Now,
numbers is the key.
okay. Now for this one-time visit, this one-time, 1 hour that you just described visit where you ask questions and take a little sample of blood, basically the kind of questions that you ask are what? About their general health or their emotional health or what kind of questions?
Uh, there are several different types of questions that we ask. Questions about family history,
Mm-hmm.
questions about their uh, their their personal health at this
Mm-hmm.
time.
Okay.
Uh, Also, there's a sort of like memory questions that we ask about their memory, see how they remember things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we'll give them, for instance, we'll give them a series of numbers, and then we'll talk to them for a while and ask them, can they remember that series of numbers that we gave? Can they
Okay.
count backwards from 100 uh, to, to say
60.
75?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Things like that.
Okay. So they can get in contact with you over the phone or via email?
Yeah, the study is called the African American Study of Memory in Aging. And they can call me at 919-668-2676. And I'd be glad to enroll them into that study.
Okay. And I don't think you have anything to do with what I'm about to mention, but Duke University does have several support group meetings. I think there's two that I list in the Durham Skywriter every month. They don't meet in July, but they meet all the other months. They have a meeting of on Thursday, the last Thursday, I believe it is, or the fourth Thursday of the month, I believe. I could check. But that's at the clinic, Duke
Yeah.
University Medical
Well,
Center.
we have
And there's another
several
one.
different support groups that
Okay.
meet, uh, uh, some at Duke and others in churches
Mm-hmm,
or
mm-hmm.
other places where we have support groups.
There's groups
We have
for
some support
Parkinson's.
groups that deal with daughters
Mm-hmm.
of persons with Alzheimer's. We have a
Right.
support group for men,
Mm-hmm.
wives who are taking care of persons with Alzheimer's. And we have a support group of family members.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's several different support groups that meet around the Triangle area, the various churches as well as
Mm-hmm.
at Duke itself.
And they're really helpful because, like I said, I was a caregiver for about 6 years, and yeah, the hard thing is finding the time to go to these meetings because you're busy taking care of someone. But if you can get away, that is a really good thing to do, and to talk with people who are in your situation, taking care of someone with Alzheimer's or dementia. And I think it's really important because you start to feel really, really alone after a while, and kind of you can feel despondent and really lonely caring for an Alzheimer's patient, and it's really good to attend meetings.
Yeah, we have a couple of support groups that meet where uh, the affected person comes in with their caregiver also.
Oh,
So and
okay.
so there's a because we realize that sometimes you can't get away from
Hmm.
the caregiver's responsibilities.
It would actually be cool if they had a component like the way we're doing the show now, where you can be in front of your computer and enjoying the meeting that way.
Mhm.
That would be cool if you could do that. You could hook something like that up.
Yeah, well, we could put that
Just a
together for you.
suggestion. Because like I said, the hardest part is finding time away from your loved one. It's
Yeah.
sometimes it's
Mhm.
just impossible. In fact, I attended meetings more after my aunt died, which wasn't helpful. I was just still feeling connected.
Mhm.
But I just couldn't do it. Very often while she was alive. It was very difficult. What else do you do as the African American outreach person at the Bryan Alzheimer's Disease Research Center?
Well, uh, one of the key roles that I play at the center is educating the community about Alzheimer's disease. When
Mm-hmm.
I first started about 15 years ago at the center, there was very little information, particularly in the African American community, about Alzheimer's disease.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my first roles was to begin to educate the community. One of the ways we did that was to develop a newsletter that we put out to various churches and other organizations, and also persons who were caregiving with somebody with Alzheimer's. We had a circulation of about 2,500 persons that we circulated the newsletter to, as well as different agencies that were responsible for care of elderly. So that was a very good tool that we had in our toolbox in terms of educating the community. However, due to lack of funds, we were unable to keep that to publish that newsletter for the past couple of years. But hopefully we will be able to revamp that newsletter in the coming year.
Well, maybe you can do it as an e-newsletter.
Yeah,
well, not everybody has a computer.
E-newsletter, but particularly a lot of really elderly caregivers are not able to get online to read e-newsletter. So we like to do the hard copy.
That's true.
But we have been doing an e-newsletter.
Oh, okay.
But it's just not as effective.
It would be nice. Now, I know in some cities, and I know I'm probably going beyond your job title here, but I know in some cities there's like a sort of like a hotline sort of deal where if you need questions answered, if you're a first-time caregiver, that you can call someone and ask questions about the care of a dementia patient or Alzheimer's patient. That would be cool too.
Yes, we do have that service.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, I would have been calling if I had known.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can call anytime, and someone will give you advice, information about how to better care for your loved one. And it's part of our education component.
You don't happen to know that number, do you? Right off the bat?
You can call 1-866, and this number goes out to all over the state.
Okay.
1-866-444-2372. Again, it's 1-866-444-2372.
Okay. So that's good to know. That is really good to know. I did not know you did that. That's wonderful. So how can we convince people? Because I know it's 2014, but very often when you talk to African Americans about the medical industry, there's still this distrust, and people are still mentioning Tuskegee, which, as we know, was an ill-fated study where they allowed African American men to develop venereal disease, and they did not tell them how to treat it because they wanted to see how the disease progressed. People still mention that when they talk about the distrust of the medical industry, and I'm wondering, how can we let people know things are different now? And
well, actually, the result was that Tuskegee, it was not a study, it was an experiment.
Experiment, wow, that's even worse. Whoa, okay.
Wow. The results is even worse than that. Is the fact is that penicillin was readily available at the time, but was not given to any of the men who were in the study. The phenomenal thing about the study, and we say today that African Americans don't participate in studies. The phenomenal thing about this, again, I say this experiment, is that they kept these African American men in this research for 40 years. 40 years. And that's phenomenal. Just to have a research protocol going on for 40 years.
Mm.
and uh, most of the men died, of course, with syphilis.
Mm.
uh, there have been things put in place uh, to prevent that kind of catastrophe from ever happening again.
Good. Good.
But still, I would suggest that before you get involved in any kind of research protocol, is to know what you're getting into. Make sure that you understand what it's all about. They're
Mm.
supposed to explain it. There's something called an IRB that you are supposed to understand and have read to you, not just
Okay.
giving it to you and let you read it for yourself, but make sure
Mm.
that they go over every detail. And,
It's called
and
IRP.
these protocols are several pages long, but
Okay.
it is important that you understand exactly what you're getting into before you get involved in any
Mm.
research.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. Okay. And so don't just sign up for research because you're going to get a gift card, something like that.
Yeah.
Not disparaging what you. I know some people are like, oh, they give you money or cards or whatever. You don't want
Mhm.
that to sway your decision. In other
Yeah.
words.
That's not a good reason for to get involved in any kind of research protocol because you're going to get some money. But a lot of people do it, you know.
Sure.
And that's, kind of what happened with the Tuskegee experiment. They were promised that they would have uh,
Um,
funeral benefits. And, a
um,
lot of people didn't have insurance back then. And to
okay.
have funeral benefits to take care of your loved one was a
Wow.
big deal.
Wow. That's pretty rough. That's pretty rough. So, how can we convince people? You just said that things are different now, and you did give some good advice on people needing to know exactly what they're getting into, to have everything explained to them, and so that they can sign the correct papers. Explaining that these, what's going to happen exactly, right?
Yes,
So after all that's said and done, then you can pretty much be sure that everything's going to be cool, right?
pretty much so. But even with all of the things that have been put in place to
Mm.
make sure that there are no improprieties with these research studies, it's important to follow through and make sure that the information that you are giving to the researchers
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
protected, and all of this should be documented in the papers that you sign. But
Well,
you want to make
when
sure
you
that the
say
information that you're giving is protected.
okay, when you say protected, do you mean secret? What do you mean protected?
That is protected. That is not given out to anybody else.
Oh,
For
like
instance,
sharing with the media and
yeah,
whatnot.
you don't want your
Oh,
information shared. You want
okay,
it
okay,
protected.
okay.
And with the research ends, you want to know that the information that you have given, even
Hmm.
blood or whatever you have donated, will be destroyed. And all this should be documented
Oh,
in the protocol when you sign the papers for the
okay, okay,
IRB.
okay. Because I have heard of people having samples taken from them. They didn't know about it, and it was being used in research for decades
Right.
with no compensation, no knowledge, no nothing. So
Correct.
I have heard about that.
Yes.
Okay. Well, tell us again how to get in contact with you for people who are in this area. This show does emanate from Durham, North Carolina. So if someone living in the Triangle area, basically what you're going to do if you're taking part in the study is you're going to be helping others. This might not benefit you directly because research takes time, right?
Right.
So you can't.
Uh, it's a long-term deal. It might not help you, but it may help your grandchildren or their children even.
Okay.
So it's important to get involved today. We suffer because we are not involved in research. Okay, and you can get involved in this African American study of memory and aging by calling me directly. My direct
Mhm.
line is 919 668 2676.
Okay. And that's 919. Wait, say it again?
919-668-2676.
Okay. 668-2676. Area 919. Okay. And it's the Bryan Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, part of Duke University here in Durham, North Carolina. Anything else you want to say about this research, Mr.
Well, I do
Edmonds?
want to thank you for allowing me to speak to the people. I think that just being on this format on your TV show will encourage a lot of people to call in, to get involved in our research protocols, as well as get involved in maybe brain donation because they haven't heard about it in the past.
Well, I've never heard about it, and I'm kind of an educated person, sort of, but it's hard to keep up with everything in the world, you know?
Right.
So just like what I was saying earlier, we might not be taking part because we're not being invited to specifically. We're used to holding back. But once you think about these things, you might start wanting to get involved. I have Alzheimer's on both sides of my family. I probably wouldn't be against donating my brain. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I hope I don't get Alzheimer's. But this is something that you have to think about, folks. You might decide that's not for me or my family, but at least you've given it some thought. That's all we can ask, right?
That's right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay, folks, you know what to do. Then think about it. You might want to take part. If not, think about it some more, because someone in your family down the road on either side is going to be dealing with dementia or Alzheimer's, and it's good at least to learn about it and how to deal with it. If you'd like to be a guest on TV Skywriter, I do talk about many different issues. I have writers, musicians, entrepreneurs, people from the medical profession, all walks of life on TV Skywriter from around the world. Just write to me at durhamskywriter@gmail.com. You can read the Durham Skywriter, an all-positive community paper. It's something that's kind of rare. You can read that at durhamskywriter.com. Radio Skywriter airs from WNCU. That's one of the NPR stations here in Durham, North Carolina. My show airs on Sunday evening, 6:30 to 7 Eastern Time. 90.7 FM local, WNCU.org around the world. And with that, have a great evening. See you next Sunday. Ciao.
So long. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.